Welcome back to the Hot 7 Nightly News. Thank you for staying with us. The former chairman of the Ayanola Council for the Advancement of Rastafari, ICA, Aaron Alexander, he has come out in full agreement with the recent EU parliamentary passing of a resolution on reparations for crimes committed against Africa. The passing urges European member states to introduce reform aimed at tearing down structural racism. The former ICA chairman noted the significance that this passing will eventually have on Caribbean nations. Solange Alfred tells us more in this report.
A watershed resolution backed by the EU Parliament has called on European member states to provide reparations for crimes perpetrated in Africa during the era of colonialism. The motion looks to deconstruct systematic racism facing Afro-Europeans. For a number of years, many black leaders have called for reparations to be handed down to descendants of slaves. However, this resolution was tabled by British Labour MEP Claude Moraes after witnessing racist behaviour conveyed on Italian Socialist MEP and Italy's first black government minister, Cecile Kyenge. Former chairman of the Ayanola Council of the Advancement of Rastafari, ICA, Aaron Alexander, says the recent EU parliamentary passing on reparation is one that will continue to push the Council to lobby for change right here in St. Lucia.
The issue of reparations is just the same. Rastafari have been talking about this for eons, and many of our prophets gone before us have been calling for this. And this is something, in order for the world to execute proper justice, they must recognize this issue. This issue is pivotal for the development of humanity as a whole, because African descendants, African people have gone through the worst atrocities through the transatlantic slave trade. The millions of African lives that were lost during that crossing. I mean, it's only fair and just that the world look into this thing. So I'm very encouraged when I hear this kind of news coming out of the EU.
With European colonialism of the New World and the transatlantic slave trade remaining arguably the greatest act of violence perpetrated on people of color, Alexander says he has high hopes that this movement will bring about a difference in the lives of those still affected by systematic and structural racism that exists the world over.
We are hoping that good sense will prevail throughout the world. We're hoping that common sense will prevail. We're hoping that there will be a general apology from leaders around the world. Even in the Caribbean, we heard an apology coming from Gaston Brown towards Rastafari and atrocities committed against Rastafari. So coming out of the slave trade and all the atrocities done to the Africans and African descendants, this is something that is just, it is something that is right. And for there to be equilibrium in this world, the world needs to recognize this atrocity and make amends.
The EU bill calls upon European member states to employ on a national scale campaigns to handle discrimination in politics, policing, housing, health, education, and the justice system. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
The expansion and upgrading of St. Lucia's seaports continues to be a priority for the government of St. Lucia. Prime Minister Alan Chasney and Minister for Infrastructure, Ports, Energy and Labour Stephenson King have travelled to the UK and Switzerland to continue discussions with cruise industry leaders to ensure St. Lucia's success with the optimization of passenger and cargo terminal operations. The Prime Minister and Infrastructure Minister will meet with global ports as well as MSC Cruises to advance discussions on the sustainable development of St. Lucia's cruise and cargo ports. The government of St. Lucia is embarking on major infrastructural projects to improve its ports of entry, including the redevelopment of the Uanora International Airport and upgrades to the Castries port. In the Prime Minister's absence, Minister for Agriculture Ezekiel Joseph serves as acting Prime Minister. Assistant Divisional Officer in the St. Lucia Fire Service Department, David Antoine, gave a detailed breakdown of the emergency calls that occurred over the weekend from the 29th of March to the 1st of April. He informed that a total of 86 ambulance calls were responded to.
These medical emergencies included 3 motor vehicle accidents and 6 physical assaults. One of these physical assault was a firearm-related incident at Gros Islet. On Sunday, March 31st, at approximately 7:14 p.m., fire officers from the Gros Islet Fire Station and the Pavno Fire Station responded to a house fire at Massat Gros Islet. The said fire was extinguished before fire officers could have made it to the scene. The fire was confined to the kitchen, and being destroyed were one sofa and a cupboard.
Antoine also provided insight into the response to one road accident that led to the eventual fatality of a 35-year-old.
On Sunday, March 31st, at approximately 7:20 a.m., fire officers from the Castries and Bavno Fire Station responded to a motor vehicle collision at Wavin Chabot Castries. The incident involved a coaster and a motorcycle. On arrival at the scene, emergency personnel assessed and treated 2 male individuals for the injuries sustained. They were subsequently transported to the Victoria Hospital for further medical care. The safety of personnel, of riders, must always be paramount to them. And once they have begun to acknowledge that, they will wear the helmet and the safety clothing, and by so doing can protect themselves and even pedestrians and other road users in the process.
Antoine did not divulge whether those involved in the recent accident at Ravin Chabot were wearing safety gear. The Live to Soar Foundation will once again host its Youth Symposium, slated for the 3rd to the 4th of April at the Castries Comprehensive Secondary School and the Viewfort Comprehensive Secondary School. The symposium is being touted as a way to broaden the scope of career possibilities for the youth. Solange Alfred tells us more.
The world of work is opening up its blue skies to those interested in a career in the field of aviation. The Department of Education has partnered up with the Live to Soar Corporation to host the 2019 edition of its Youth Symposium. Live to Soar is championed by JetBlue pilot Neil Justin, who will be present at the symposium to speak with interested youth about a life in aviation. Coordinator, Guidance and Counseling in the Department of Education, Joycelyn Eugene, urges parents to sign up their children for the symposium, as it is one not to be missed.
This program is going to be held over 2 days. On the 3rd, it's at Castries Comprehensive Secondary School from 9 to 3, and on the 4th, it's at Viewfort Comprehensive Secondary School from 9 to 3. It is targeting secondary school students from districts 1 to 8. Districts 1 to 4 are on the 3rd at CCSS, and districts 5 to 8 in the south at Viewfort Comprehensive Secondary School. Mr. Justin, of course, expects to have with him a contingent of pilots, flight attendants, and other persons working internationally in that area who will be conducting sessions with students. There's also he also plans to have a flight simulator set up at the 2 venues so that students can have that experience as well. So we want to encourage parents to have the children register for that program on the Live to Soar website, and of course to come out in uniform on the respective days for their districts.
Eugene explained that this initiative is in keeping with the Department of Education's continued efforts to expose students to a wide range of career paths.
We are trying to give students opportunity to also experience those seemingly non-traditional areas like aviation and so on. I think it's important because we must recognize that with the improvement in technology, the changes in the job market, there are some jobs that will be extinct in the next 5 years or so, but there are others that continue to improve, continue to develop, and of course we would need students to develop the skills necessary to be able to fill in those particular job areas.
Students interested in being part of the Live to Soar Youth Symposium 2019 can sign up on www.livetosoar.com. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
You're watching the Hot 7 Nightly News. Stay with us. We'll be right back.